everybody. I'm Truman.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Nick, and today we're going to be reviewing Spirited.
Sam and Kabi are going on the spot to review Elf.
Let's jingle jangle it on over to the trailer.
On a bitter, cold Christmas Eve, one dark soul is selected for redemption by the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and yet to come. A tradition that continues to this very night.
Like A Christmas Carol?
Yes, yes. If you would just let me get this out. Sit.
So out of all the people on the planet, murderers, people who do gender reveal parties, I'm the guy you're gonna haunt.
You know what? Forget it. I told you, the guy is a level 20 Benjamin the Dickens.
Come on, I can take this guy. I'm your ghost of Christmas present.
La 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 la! I'm not watching your dramatic re-encrapment.
Hey, I'm haunting you. You can't just run away from me when I'm haunting you. Hello?
I believe he can be a positive force for mankind.
And he's got his hands all over everything.
Yeah, I wish. Maud, are you texting HR?
No. People don't change.
We got a runner! That's just fun to watch. I'm here to change him to being a more positive force for humanity. Clint. Yeah.
You Photoshop yourself into these pictures of my executive VP?
I don't think so.
Oh, you want that.
What I want is for you to shut up and let me do my job.
Is there a ghost of Christmas Grumpy? Because you could do that job.
This is where real change begins. Oh, he's dead.
Yeah, he's definitely... No, he's fine.
He's good.
Well,
Wow,
none of it's
squirrely.
real anyway.
So, what do you guys think of Spirited? Yeah, Truman.
I tried so hard to enjoy it. I tried so hard to find it within myself to enjoy the film. I love Ryan Reynolds. I love Will Ferrell. I like Octavia Spencer. Also fun. Everyone was fun, but it wasn't clicking for me at least.
Truman, you saw this movie twice.
I did.
So, explain what's the second viewing experience like?
Well, I'll tell you. As I told my compatriots here, I was saying there's a point in the movie, which I learned the first time around. There's a point in the movie where you're watching and you go, oh, this feels like it's ending and it's winding down, and you look at it and there's 40 minutes left. I told them this, and then we get to that part in the movie, and Nick and Ian both go, hey, Truman, is this the part you were talking about? And we look at the screen, and it was exactly 40 minutes. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy?
I don't care what happens in my life. I don't care if I'm getting married and my wife leaves me at the altar. I will never feel more despair in my life than when I realized there was 40 minutes left in this movie.
This movie, it gets to the point where you're like, there's no more conflict that could possibly happen.
It's like, all right, we're done, man. Come on.
You made a great point. You said we are in the fourth act now.
You did.
They wrap it up with a nice little bow. Will Ferrell becomes human, and then, boom, 40 minutes left of the movie.
Ugh.
And I don't think any of us really had it left in us to keep going. But enough of the fourth act. Let's take this from the beginning. Okay, so beginning.
We open on a cold winter's nights.
We begin with a pretty bombastic musical number. It's
That's
a big
true.
set piece. There's a bunch of
After the
people
cold winter's
dancing,
night.
dozens of people dancing. So what did you guys think of the music in this movie?
I thought there was like two good songs.
Yes.
I thought they were nice, and the rest of them is just like, it could have been anything. I don't remember what they were about. It just felt like somebody had something to say, and they wanted to waste 3 minutes, and they're like, we could have somebody sing about what they feel immediately right now.
It did feel like that they were being forced to add these songs in. I feel like the only numbers that were warranted were, well, none of them, but Good Afternoon for some reason. I don't really know why.
That was one of the two.
That was quaint, yeah.
It felt like it felt like it should have been there. Like it would have been there if the movie wasn't a musical anyway.
Yeah.
But every other song just drags, and it's so extravagant and weird. Like this first number that Nick's talking about with this giant set piece, I was like, did they build like a is this on like a Broadway stage or something?
Yeah.
It just looked so bizarre and out of place for this movie. But yeah, we move on. We get introduced to our titular ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future, of course. And Will Ferrell is the ghost of Christmas present.
I have one more point about the musical aspect of this movie.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have cut out all of the songs. It was a 2-hour movie. This movie was like, I think just a little bit over 2 hours. It was peeking over the edge of 2 hours.
His peeking little head. It had a little tiny head. It was like, ooh, what's going on over here?
Yeah.
You could absolutely say that. Yeah, I think it did. I think
you could cut out everything. It could be an 80-minute movie.
Yeah, could have been a quaint little Christmas special with Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, but they wanted to make a spectacle of this, which is a very weird thing to do when you're an Apple TV Plus original.
Yeah, I feel like that added length and the weird pacing, how it feels like it wraps up. It's not nearly as rewatchable as like any other Christmas movie.
The whole pacing of this movie is just absolutely bizarre. And with Will Ferrell, with them trying to squeeze out every last second of Will Ferrell, of course he can't just be the ghost of Christmas present. He's got to also take over and be the ghost of Christmas past. And he's also got to be Ebenezer Scrooge.
Oh, gosh. That part for me, we all, I think, guessed the extent of what would happen. Like, it seemed like it's like, I've been alive for a while. There was no plumbing when I was alive. And then when I was watching at home, I was like, he's Scrooge. And then we were watching, and then Ian goes, he's Scrooge, isn't he, Truman? And I just went, yep.
It's not a hard twist to see coming, and it's not really, I mean, I guess it's kind of cute that he's like, oh, you're unredeemable too.
It's a little quirky.
It's
a
neat.
little cute.
It's a wholesome 100.
I guess, yeah, I guess you could definitely say that, both of you. You could say that. But, okay, Ryan Reynolds. What did you guys think of him in this movie?
I love Ryan Reynolds in everything he's in, but this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't fit, I think, in this.
I don't think either of our two leads really fit this movie, especially with it being a musical. Personally, I don't think Will Ferrell has that great of a voice, especially with especially the songs he was given. Sometimes he would dip down into his actual range and he would sound decent, but when he's singing these high notes and I'm like, oh, this poor man. Yeah. I just it sounded like someone was punching him.
In terms of Ryan Reynolds and his character, I feel like especially in Christmas movies, I think we've seen the big bad businessman angle so many times. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I didn't really buy the chemistry of Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, or Will Ferrell and Octavia Spencer for that matter. I don't know, just like all around.
Will Ferrell and Octavia Spencer was just blowing my mind the entire movie. I was like, there's already conflict in this movie. Why it's Ryan Reynolds getting to be like a good person. But like why on earth does Will Ferrell, the ghost of Christmas present, also Ebenezer Scrooge, need to have a love interest who is a real person on earth? It just doesn't make sense to me. And there's not like kickback or anything. There's no conflict from this at all. It's just like a fact.
It just works. It just works right away like that, and it's like guaranteed for him when he gets to Earth.
Yeah.
That, oh yeah, you're gonna marry this woman forever.
Well, I mean, I agree with the Octavia Spencer thing. I think that could have been taken out, like a lot of things in this movie. I think you probably could take that out. Not her character, but just like the relationship. Maybe make her do something different. I don't know, but I do think, for what it's worth, I think Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, I think they work together. But you know, they're two very charismatic men. I think they could work well with anybody. But what do you guys think about the choreography? Because for me, I very much noticed Ryan Reynolds was doing all like he's going like this. He's having a good time. He's feeling it out. And then Will Ferrell's like, I'm going across the camera, and that was all he would do. He gonna go, and then that would be it. You know?
I mean, during these big musical numbers, I was kind of just like brain's gonna turn off, and I'm just gonna like stare directly at this and like maybe listen to the music, because it was like, oh, here's 3 minutes of my life that I'm never gonna get back. I may as well retreat into my proverbial cocoon.
Yeah.
But the choreography, I think the background dancers definitely carried these numbers, and Ryan Reynolds is definitely a stronger dancer than Will Ferrell. But we can always talk about dancing a little bit more right after this break. Cheers, fellas.
Welcome back to Review Crew.
On today's episode, we're going to review Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Here's a trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Let's talk about this movie now.
Let's talk about it.
I liked it a lot.
I love Kick-Ass.
There are parts of me that want to just go through frame by frame and see every single multiverse when they'd have those
Yeah,
flashes.
the big flashes. Me too.
Talented, funny, handsome. Tim,
come on.
You got it all, buddy. You're like my own person.
Look who's talking. Come on.
See you next week.
Well, deck my halls, fellas. That was a great commercial break, ain't it?
Huzzah.
So, this movie, right? Obviously, it's kind of a spoof, like a continuation of the typical Charles Dickens A Christmas Carol. So, like, in terms of the Christmas Carol, we've seen it done to death for years, decades, centuries, maybe? Different iterations, books, novels, movies, shows, everything. Do you guys think that this is a worthy, like, continuation of this story? Just conceptually, like, disregarding the movie itself.
Well, I don't think anyone's ever like, yes, finally, we get to talk about the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. I don't think
Someone did.
What?
Someone did. Someone at Apple TV.
Someone was
Plus
like,
did.
finally, but I don't think most families are like, oh, cool, we get to see a new way to interact with this part of Christmas. No one ever talks about that. They want to see Santa, they want to see elves.
I would like to say there was not a reality where we were talking about this movie where Will Ferrell and
Ryan
Reynolds are not the stars of this movie. If they got some random people who could actually sing to do this movie, I don't think there's any reason we'd be talking about it or it'd be as popular as it is. So to me, they knew that the concept wasn't that good, and they're like, guys, we need people.
You make a sterling point, Ian. I think that this movie was carried like purely on its star power, really. The big three are all super, super famous people. The marketing, it's all I've seen is just Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds, like a close shot on either of them. It's like, look it's a movie with you guys.
With your guys, look at him go.
Yeah.
Ian, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree because that was my point. Actually, I brought that up if you remember. But
good job, Nick.
Enough of the star power in the cast. Technical aspects. I know we all had stuff to say about this movie. Nick? What do you got to say about this movie?
Well, Ian, I would personally say that this movie looks very weird. I don't know if it's something with the depth of field or color palette or the quality of the camera, but Ian, this movie just looks like the camera's been covered in Vaseline for the whole movie. So it's a little weird looking, and it wasn't even bad. It was just very off-putting.
I mean, so what you're saying? So it's like some kind of Vaseline movie, is what you're saying?
I
It's
think
like covered
this
in
is the
Vaseline.
First in a new, the
new
Vaseline
genre.
movie type movie.
A new genre of movie.
Yeah. I think it definitely has something to do with the weirdly muted color palette, which is something you don't normally get in Christmas movies.
Right?
Like even in like Christmas HQ, where the ghosts of Christmas past, present.
HQ. I'm sorry.
Where the ghosts of past, present, and future Christmas all reside. It's grossly gray and brown.
It really is.
Everywhere in the movie.
Like a light gray, too. It's weird.
I think it fits very well when they go back to the past into Ebenezer Scrooge's timeline.
Yeah.
And I think that fits that part very well, but it's like they put it on that one section of the movie and forgot to take it off of the rest.
Well, I would say the lighting's off. It's definitely a weird looking movie, but also tonally, there's lots of different weird things happening. Like, for instance, at the end of the story, there's these very inflated stakes that happen, which I'll let Ian discuss.
So, for those of you who have not seen this movie, we have our Tiny Tim situation with Ryan Reynolds, where he has been trying to cancel this 12-year-old on social media for some reason. I'm not entirely sure. I think
it's because
he's evil.
He was the 12-year-old was running against his Ryan Reynolds' niece.
Yeah, niece.
In class president election.
So he's trying to get him canceled, and he finds out that he made this outrageous post at a soup kitchen. So he's about to like publicize this and have it go crazy.
No, I don't.
We get taken by the ghost of Christmas future to the future, where it is found out that Tiny Tim equivalent, who was canceled on TikTok, has died.
Did you set that up? You said it, you drank, you were like, oh, I can't even drink with this nose.
He died by suicide.
It's implied. It's never directly stated. We're in the fourth act, so I'm not really paying attention. And Truman goes, guys, this part is crazy. You need to watch this part. And it's not like explicitly said ever, but it's just such a tonal shift. And then Ryan Reynolds is brought back, and he's like a completely changed person. Like I would be too if I found out that was a direct cause of my effect of my actions. But it's so absurd that it goes directly to there.
It's so weird. And then also he goes like, listen, man, I'm not going to change my whole personality, but I can fix this one small thing. I'm like,
yeah, and then
I
he's
guess
like,
you can.
And then he was like, I'm gonna be the same person when I have to go back to work because I'm a big evil business conglomerate.
Which I thought was actually kind of interesting. That it's like you would expect he's like at the beginning he's like, I would never change. I'd never change for nobody. And then towards the end he's like, oh look at me, I'm all better.
Yeah.
But he really. I mean, he is when he's like the ghost of Christmas present at the end, but
that feels forced.
He doesn't mean to be. He still wants to be the big evil businessman, which I guess is kind of like kind of interesting subversion.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think that, and especially with him becoming what Truman just said, him becoming the ghost of Christmas present is just so forced, and it feels so strange. And when they remake this movie, and when they make a third sequel,
they reboot Spirited.
When they bring Spirited back in 30 years, and we have someone playing Ryan Reynolds, it'll be a very interesting movie. But I felt, and him sacrificing himself for Will Ferrell did not feel earned, even a little bit.
No, it really didn't.
But hey, when they reboot it, and they have to recast Ryan Reynolds, I hope it's you.
Thanks, Truman.
Anytime.
Yeah, the ending is very forced, and the only good part was when Ryan Reynolds, his ghost comes out, and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm dead in this truck." So that's about.
Oh my God, I'm dead in
Holy
this
crap! I'm dead in the truck, and then the truck moves under his ghost
Whoa.
weight.
It's ghost physics. You gotta have ghost physics.
And then all of a sudden he is the ghost of Christmas present, and he wants to expand. He wants to do more as the ghost. He's doing more. They're being even nicer than Will Ferrell was.
I don't understand why he gets to be the ghost of Christmas present immediately after he dies.
Well, he goes, hey, I got a little proposal. And then it moves on immediately. And he's like, I'm the ghost of Christmas present now. It's like, is your proposal just I get the job that I want?
Is there no inauguration or coronation?
Nick wants to see an inauguration, goddammit. Come on.
What about all those, for lack of a better term, minions that were working under Will Ferrell?
Minions.
Yes. What about those people who have been working at the Christmas factory for years and years?
There's someone who's been working there for probably about 60 or 70 years.
He's bucking for the promotion.
He's so mad about everything.
Well,
the guy who didn't read the memo at the end of the movie. You remember that fellow?
Yeah.
This movie, speaking of the memo bit, this movie is so weirdly modern in like the worst way possible. In a way that it feels so tone deaf with our actual like world of pop culture. Like when we see the videos of the kid getting canceled, and it's like a TikTok video where there's people are like scribbling like you're an idiot over it in like
bad person.
We have Scrooge in 5 minutes into the movie singing about trolls, and there's like comments flying by about boomers.
And then there's
stuff.
that one part where Ryan Reynolds goes, "Why do you want to talk to me? Why don't you talk to people who I don't know do gender reveal parties?" And he doesn't talk like that. But come on, guys, what are we doing? We don't need to say that.
Speaking of reveals,
I was gonna say that.
How about we reveal our scores for Spirited?
Oh, Ian, well, I've thought about it. I've thought about it a lot. I've thought about it a lot more than I have not. And I have a score, and my score is going to be a holly jolly 4. It's not alliteration. I apologize for that.
Yeah, I'm also gonna have to give this a frisky 4 out of 10.
Frisky 4, dang it.
This movie is nothing very special in terms of musical, in terms of holiday movies, and I'm never watching it again. But I had a good laugh.
I really want to be different. I want to be different. I didn't like this movie. I liked the Sudoku I was playing as the movie was playing more than I liked the movie. There are 9 squares in a Sudoku board. 9 divided by 3 is 3. I will give this movie a Sudoku 3. Cheers.
Well, there are 9 squares.
We'll see you when we get back. enough of Spirited, fellas. Let's check out a far better Will Ferrell Christmas movie, and that is Elf on the Spot with Sam and Kabi. Let's check it out.
Hey everybody, I'm Sam.
And I'm Kabi, and today we're going to be reviewing Elf.
Let's go take a look at that trailer.
Hi.
Your costume is pretty.
Oh, it's not a costume. I'm an elf.
Oh.
Well, technically I'm a human, but I was raised by elves.
New Line Cinema presents the story of one elf who's coming home for Christmas.
Boy, can't wait to see my dad. We're gonna go ice skating and eat sugar plums. Sorry!
Now,
I think someone sent you a Christmas gram.
Dad!
We should call security.
Good idea.
I like to whisper too.
Buddy's experiencing a world he never knew existed.
Buddy's your son. What am I gonna do? He's certifiably insane.
Discovering what it takes to fit in. And going where no elf has gone before.
What he needs is to be nurtured. Bring him home. Introduce him to Emily and Michael.
How long do you think you'll be with us?
I was thinking, like, forever.
He cannot stay here.
We can't just throw him out in the snow.
He loves the snow. He's told me 15 times.
Ow! Son of a nutcracker!
We can take him.
Where did you say you were from?
This holiday season,
I think you're beautiful, and my tongue swells up when I am around you.
get ready
I planned out our whole day. I thought maybe we could make gingerbread houses and maybe even hold hands.
for a tall tale
How are we gonna get the star on top?
of elfish proportions.
I got it.
Will Ferrell,
Okay, people, Santa's coming to town.
Oh my God! I know him. I know him.
Elf,
Do you remember me?
Dude, I didn't recognize
I know. I'm in work clothes. I didn't know you had elves here.
You're hilarious, my friend.
Did you have to borrow a reindeer to get down here?
Hey, you feeling strong, my friend? Call me Elf one more time.
He's an angry elf. Look at you! Ow! Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color? Put that down.
Okay, so Elf. Do you want to give it a quick summary of what Elf is about?
Sure. So it's about Buddy, who was a human raised by elves, obviously, and his journey of finding his father, right?
Yeah, pretty much. He has to take on the big city and sort of navigate his way around, finding his dad and sort of acclimating to, New York. And that comes with its own challenges. I thought it was a really fun movie to watch. I watch this movie all the time with my family. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies. I just recently rewatched it and can't remember why I love this movie. What about the movie sticks out to you?
I really love the way that I just love all of it actually. I don't have anything really bad to say about it. It's my sister's all-time favorite movie, and I love that we're able to just recite every line. Like, when he sees Santa and he's like, "You're not Santa. You smell like beef and cheese," and it's just like, that's so funny. Or just all of Will Ferrell's just little quick witty lines throughout the film just stand out to me. Like when he puts maple syrup on spaghetti, like only elf would do that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Speaking of Will Ferrell, I mean, he killed his role. He was absolutely amazing in this. I love him as an actor. He's really funny, and I think his role in Elf really brought home that character for me. That being said, I love the movie entirely. It's a really fun movie to just watch. There's so many funny scenes, but it also comes with there are some good feels, some hard feels. I absolutely love it. The beginning of the movie, right? We're in the North Pole.
Yes.
Something I thought was really interesting was how they portrayed some of the animals in it. What do you think about, just that whole thing?
So I found the use of their animation really interesting because all the characters that they had were human up to that point, or real life, like even the reindeer. But then the minute that Buddy starts to leave the North Pole, he sees the snowmen, the walrus, I think it was, the penguins, narwhals, all of the animals he sees. And it's like almost saying goodbye to that fairy tale he lived in, because fairy tales are normally done in animation, as seen through Disney and all other companies, right?
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Yeah.
So the minute he enters New York, there's no more fairy tale. He's kind of just in the real world,
Yeah.
seeing it for what it is.
Yeah. How do you think he did? You know, taking on the big city.
He did the one thing Santa said not to do.
Oh yes.
And ate the street gum.
That was hard to watch.
No.
It was really hard to watch when he was chewing it off of the subway, and he would not stop chewing it. That was, yeah.
He enjoyed it.
Yeah,
which
that's
is the
even
worst
worse.
part.
I don't know how. I think it was really funny because they also, you know, New Yorkers don't really care about what's going on. And he made it his to do the one thing that would piss off anyone and everyone. I mean, he was having fun in the city, and at the end of the day, I think that is really, really cool because it was showing that, you know, even in Christmas time, you can have a blast in the city.
Speaking of pissing people off, he did that very well with his father, Walter. How did you feel about their dynamic when they finally met each other and just how they played off of each other?
I think they played off of each other very nicely. I mean,
Really?
Walter Hobbs was a really serious man. I mean, Santa prefaced it by saying, you know, he's on the naughty list, like, you know, so you knew you were dealing with someone bad, I guess. I don't know. Someone, and you know, yeah. And Elf is this like bundle of joy, and coming in, I mean, they were playing off each other very, very well. And I thought it was really interesting to see Walter's like character development per se towards the end when, like, you know, he had to save Christmas, and he you know, ended up believing in Santa, and, you know, more so believing in his family. He was willing to give up his job to, you know, be with his family and all that and all. So I thought their dynamic was really, really great. What about you?
I really appreciated the way that Buddy affected Walter and just how he also affected Michael and Emily too. He just kind of brought the whole family unit back together. And in the end, spoiler alert, I guess, in the end when Walter finally started singing, that like was kind of what pushed Santa's sleigh over and allowed it to actually fly all the way home, like back to the North Pole. So I was just like, oh my gosh, Buddy kind of put the family back together, and it was really nice to see that in this movie.
What did you think of Zooey Deschanel's character Jovi in the entirety of the movie?
I loved her. I liked how I don't know. I like, oh my goodness, wait. I just kind of loved her as a character. She was very taken back by Buddy at first, but then she kind of grew to love him. And she was like, who is this man and why is he talking to me? But then as they got to know each other better, especially on their little date when he kissed her on the cheek, she was like, oh my gosh, you miss. And he's like, what do you mean I miss? Like, that's what I meant to do. And she's like, no, like, that's not what you meant to do.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, how'd you feel about her? What were your
I
thoughts?
thought she was a great character. A little, you know, something for, because, you know, just at the end of the day, it's really just Buddy exploring so much of everything. And I thought she was a great character. I mean, she also, like, was so open to, you know, how different Buddy was compared to everything else. She was willing to do everything Buddy was, you know, during that date. And at the end, like, she was there with him. And I love that they got together at the end as well. Just a great all-around character.
She didn't judge him like how everyone else did too.
Yeah.
Which was really nice.
Yeah. So, a lot of people love this movie. I mean,
Yes.
Elf is a great Christmas movie overall. Some may consider it to be a Christmas classic.
What do you consider a Christmas classic?
You know, a Christmas classic. I think it has to be something that people could come back to every year.
Okay.
It has to be something that brings together, you know, the family and really, truly brings the meaning of Christmas to them, or at least the holiday season for those who don't celebrate Christmas. Those are sort of my criteria for a Christmas movie. What would yours? Does it look the same? Is it a little bit different than that?
It's pretty similar. I feel like it also has to have Santa in there somewhere.
Oh,
Like
for
every
sure.
Christmas classic does. And there has to be some like unexpected triumph that the main character has. Like seen in the Santa Claus franchise, which I would consider also a Christmas classic, or the Polar Express. I would also consider that one.
Right.
I think those all show the same themes, including what you said.
Okay, so with that being said, would you consider Elf to be a Christmas classic?
Yeah, I'd say it is a modern Christmas classic. Would you say it's a Christmas classic?
I would think it's a Christmas classic. I mean, again, for my criteria purposes, it's something I come back to watch every year. Is definitely one of my favorite Christmas movies, for sure.
So you said it's one of your favorite movies. How would you rate Elf then? On a scale of 1 to 10?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say I would have to rate it a 9.5. That being said, like, I don't really see any flaws with the movie. So rating it with Christmas movies in general would have to be like, yeah, 9.5. You?
Definitely the same for me. The only flaw I had was when they used, I think it was the Polar Express music every time you saw the sleigh. Like the repetition, that was just kind of annoying. But other than that, I loved this movie very much.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to take it back to the studio, and happy holidays from us.
Jingle bells, time for commercials.
Hi, my name is Sadie Miller.
My name is Luke Brady. I go by St. Luke.
So this one I started with this guitar lick.
All right, before your parents shell out $120 to get you 2 versions of the same game, let's Pokemon Go to Brett's review of Pokemon Violet and Scarlet.
For a game that pushes on marketing its open-world environment as the next steps that the franchise is taking, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet now do a lot of hand-holding rather than dictating, just passive-aggressively insisting that you learn their worlds the way they want you to. I find it somewhat ironic that these games are as clunky to get along as they are, because Legends Arceus came out January of this year and made massive improvements to the Pokemon formula that many fans, myself included, were growing impatient with. You only use a formula while making such marginal improvements to the structure of the game while being the most profitable media franchise on the globe for so long until the people buying your products get tired of it, even the kids, who are the main market. That's a lot of thoughts for one sentence. I think that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet could easily have been the best games in the series to date. They've got some of the best character designs the games have had in a while, great and varied music tracks instead of just sticking to the same battle theme per situation each game, and in addition, the mobility and ease of access that you get from the Ride Legendary are a treat, and there's all-around quality of life improvements that allow for a way more enjoyable experience. Unfortunately, there were a bunch of issues ranging from tiny to glaring. Some didn't get in the way of the actual game at its core, but some were too giant to overlook. I don't have much of a problem with games being open world, but I do have a problem with a lot of their execution, especially when a really solid structure is visible beneath all of the roadblocks that screw up the momentum of my enjoyment, just to pad out time. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet boast the series' most ambitious adventure yet, in which you can set out on any of 3 paths containing full storylines. The marketing of this game and the general structure of an open world would lead you to believe that these are all a bit more self-contained to allow the player to freely swap between stories whenever they want to. With this structure, I imagined that the 2 largest hindrances to progression in-game would simply be removed for ease: Pokemon Obedience and level-locked gyms. What I found was that the game keeps those things as a means of prodding the player towards achieving goalposts in a way that may be more beneficial to a standard playthrough, or as close to standard as possible for your general open world, but is fundamentally averse to the style of gameplay that open worlds are often created to support. Many saw this game, alongside Legends Arceus, as Pokemon's potential Breath of the Wild moment. The problem here is that Breath of the Wild actually puts the benefits of the open world structure into practice. There's the Great Plateau, the game's intro section, that takes approximately 1 to 4 hours to complete depending on how fast you're going. After you finish it, you can go straight for Ganon. Nothing in the game besides your actual skill is preventing you from taking him and anyone else on. That's the nature of a true open world game, letting you do what you want when and however you want to. All of the handholding in Pokemon is made so much worse by the fact that if you really want to be pointed in specific directions by the game, you can choose to ask Nurse Joy where to go. The foundations for a more freeform game with the choice in the player's hand are there, but the training wheels are still on. The game also proudly shows off its new customization settings. The character customization is the first thing that you see this time around, and it's great to see this aspect, especially coming hot off the trail that Sword and Shield blazed. Additionally, when it comes to character design, clothes and hair are not gender-bound, only pronouns. However, the clothes that you can actually buy are incredibly limited. You can only pick through variations of the school uniform, which begs the question, what was the point of making clothing more customizable if there was close to no creative control given to the player? All of this brings me to the most glaring issue with this game, the visuals. When I got up to walk around for the first time in this game, the frame rate dropped. When my trainer so much as breathes, jumps on their ride Pokemon, enters water, or even does one of this game's most highlighted features within the marketing push, terastallizing my Pokemon, the frames drop. Gameplay slows, and my Switch cries for mercy as I feel it get warmer and warmer, whether or not it's handheld or docked. There's a bunch of failures on Game Freak's end here, and unfortunately, it feels like nothing is going to change soon. That's especially because the games are tied to a hasty production schedule. If the games don't release on time every year, then the anime doesn't come out or make any sense. Then the flow of production of the cards gets wonky, then everything gets thrown out of whack. Whether it's a structural problem, an issue with laziness, none or both of these things, it's clear that there is a problem with the Pokemon series, and it's becoming harder to ignore. The issue is that with the release timeline these games are on, the best you can really hope for with any of them is that they just so happen to keep the features that you liked and cut out the bad stuff with each release. It's just that with Game Freak and Nintendo, it often feels like there's no room for customer feedback on a game that we chose to buy anyways. It's a bit of a self-defeating and hypocritical thing, but I both want to vote with my dollar while also enjoying a series that I've always had a fondness for. I didn't buy Pokemon Shield, I sat it out and borrowed a friend's copy. I haven't bought a Pokemon game since Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire released, and I wanted to have something on my Switch that I knew would occupy my mind when bored and have the familiar fun designs that I'd know and love. So when this one got announced and at least looked better than Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I decided I'd get it. Unfortunately, I still had a ton of fun when playing Scarlet. There's a lot to love with this iteration. Koraidon is goofy and fun to have around, and I think that, weirdly enough, the 3D modeled Pokemon look better than ever in terms of texture, and that the generally more relaxed vibe the game has going on is way more enjoyable. I'll still be looking forward to the next one, for better or for worse. Now, before this review finishes, I'm going to throw it to Chris, the person who's going to be taking over this series when I graduate. Swapping you in.
For me, it is always hard to be objective when it comes to Pokemon, because the nostalgia of these games always blinds me. I first played Pokemon Ruby on my Game Boy Advance when I was just a little kid. This game kickstarted my love of Pokemon and has made me an avid player to this day. Even with my biases, it is hard to look past the blatant flaws of this game. While making an open-world Pokemon game is an impressive and exciting accomplishment, it's hard to not want more. Nonetheless, exploring this vast, bigger world is a blast. Every time I boot up this game, I am excited to see what new Pokemon, places, and people I will run into as I run around freely with no end in sight. This new style in a mainstream Pokemon game is refreshing. Exploring at my own pace until my heart is content feels good. Although I found myself missing surprise encounters, seeing wild Pokemon interact in this open world is a pleasant surprise in itself. They clearly took inspiration from Legends Arceus and made wild Pokemon even more interactive with you, each other, and the environment. Although Paldea as a region is quite large, the lands you can explore themselves can be a little one and the same. The areas feel bland, lifeless from afar, and lacking any character or charisma. With only a few sparse trees to their names, it's hard to fully immerse yourself in everything this open world concept has to offer. The areas, for the most part, besides a couple exceptions, are all the same, making each unique town lose some of their charm. One of the biggest flaws of this game is the graphics. Seriously, these graphics are tough to look at. While the Pokemon themselves look pretty high quality, the towns and environments just look downright bad. It feels like they took a Minecraft world, put it into Blender, and said, good enough. It's frankly sad that such a popular franchise releases a rushed product and still makes such a high profit. They will never learn and never improve if we keep buying. With this in mind, I will still keep buying and playing, because this game is actually quite enjoyable. Curse you, nostalgia.
And then I said, it's good.
You are more annoying than Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds in Spirited. Let's check out the credits.